thing that comes to your mind when you think about opera? Well, today I'd like to introduce you to a creative team of artists that breaks many preconceived notions about opera and breathes new life into this wonderful art form. So grab a seat and let's watch the show.
Playoffs are here, let's drink a ton of beer. Hit the red mile, the Flames make us smile. Goudreau passes the puck to Monahan. The sea of red packs the stands. The Flames have all the luck. The Oilers suck. The Flames will win the cup. Go Flames, go! Go Flames, go!
Cowtown Opera
is not your grandma's opera.
But all grandmas are welcome, of course.
Time to bring the cup home, boss. Chill, three, and it's
So why Cowtown?
So when I thought about starting a company, I thought, what could I call it? Maybe what if it could be, I don't know, like Cowtown, like fun. And as soon as I said the words Cowtown, I was like, that's it. Like, we're gonna be Cowtown. Like, you can wear your jeans to the opera, we're gonna do it in English, and you can drink beer during our shows.
So what would be like a grandma's opera?
Probably, mostly an opera that is sung in a different language. I think it would be hard for most people to understand what's happening, or at least to retain some focus on a 3-hour production.
The experience of watching something where I couldn't understand any of the words was actually really, really frustrating. And I had never experienced that before. And so I kind of got an insight into why someone who doesn't know and understand languages might find opera so frustrating. Maybe not boring, and maybe it's not that they don't appreciate the beauty of it, but it can just be frustrating.
A grandma's opera would be the La Bohèmes, Traviata, Ariadne of Naxos, any of those standard repertoire, that we are taking some of those hits that people still love the music of Mozart, they love the music of Puccini, but we put a modern adaptation on it. So we translate it so that it has references to Facebook and Instagram.
Women are beautiful and so hospitable. They change their hairdos as much as their shoes. Always so lovable, always adorable. In tears and laughter, it doesn't matter. Women are beautiful and so hospitable. They change their hairdos just like their shoes. Just like their shoes.
And you've been to Europe, which is a different scenario, right? So I guess they listen to a German opera in a different way than a Canadian would.
Yes.
And especially the new generations.
But I really believe that we have to be evolving with the times. There has to be new stories that are being created. There has to be new composers that can be supported. And for me, what's getting lost in translation and why even new works aren't successful and why audiences are not even wanting to go to some of these new works, including Canadian new opera, is because it's not accessible. I think, like, how can we start finding this new balance? And I think there's a lot of really great movement out there. There's a lot of indie companies. There's a lot of Canadian companies that are really focusing on new works.
Opera singers used to be like celebrities. And so you'd get these records, and that's how people would socialize. They'd put a record on in the evening at home. And so that was a culture that people were experiencing. And a lot of these songs as well, you'd buy the sheet music, and somebody in your family would know how to play the piano, and they would sit down at the piano and entertain. And that's part of a culture that died out in the 50s with the emergence of pop and rock music. You might have some people my age who their grandparents played records for them and exposed them to opera, but just young people aren't getting exposed to opera anymore. So I think that's where opera has been or is coming from. And so a lot of us who get exposed to opera and who learn to love it and who have seen great opera produced and have learned these languages and so we can appreciate it a little bit more, we're like, well, we want more people to enjoy it the way we do. And so I think that's again where Cowtown Opera comes in. It's like, how do we get opera to the people?
You guys are trying to bring this again, like where opera is part of, you know, like I identify myself with that. Like my sister when I went to the Opera Disrupted, after watching all three operas, right? She said, if I knew that opera was like this, I would come every time to watch opera, right? To listen to it. And so I think because it brings a new approach that people can connect again, right? Like with a cell phone or with a like way of clothing, right? Yeah. So in which ways Cowtown Opera tries to explore this intersection of classical and popular culture?
We really believe that the potential for storytelling could be so much more accessible, that we could be telling stories that people actually care about, that we could be incorporating cell phones and wearing our modern clothing, that people will understand and connect to the human voice and storytelling in a different way. And I also think that the biggest thing about that is that we've asked for people and composers and librettists to write as though you'd be speaking to your friends or your parents or telling a story to your kids, that they aren't these big epic, you know, novels, that there's something very, very personal and very something like you can connect to it. And with pop culture is what's the most popular thing about pop music is the melody, that catchy tune you can whistle, you know, and that's kind of what Verdi had. You know, you could leave the hall and you can whistle every tune.
Well, I think since 2011, Cowtown Opera's attempt was to combine the pop culture with classical music and to make opera accessible to everyone, to children, to people that don't even know anything about opera. I think sometimes opera gets a bad rap of being stuffy and you have to be of a certain culture to be able to appreciate opera. And I think this brings opera to the masses, and it's something that everybody can enjoy, no matter what age you are.
Maybe talk a little bit about the Opera Disrupted project, because I think that is a great project, because you're motivating other composers, new composers, right, to write this new format, right?
So our Opera Disrupted project is where we had about 40 applicants, librettos and composers that submitted their work to us. We got everything from like Germany and China, New York, and then we had a lot of great, amazing composers from Alberta, which was really exciting. And within that, we held a competition, and there was 3 finalists. And then we have, what we're hoping to do is have a competition each year and then produce a show from that competition the following year.
I think it's a great mandate, and I think it's amazing that it garnered attention from writers all over the world, because it's finding these new works of people who are still trying to create opera, but create it in an accessible way.
The toilet lid. For God's sake, wipe your drips up.
Your bobby pins are everywhere.
At Cowtown Opera, we try to do lots of quirky things. Sometimes it makes people uncomfortable. We try to make our shows interactive. So we'll have some of our cast members that'll be singing like the whole first act. We'll finally stand up and start singing to their neighbors. As well as just, I think like the humor, some of the comedy that we add sometimes shocks our audience. Like, what? Did this just happen in opera? And I think that what we try to also do that's different is that we try to make it fun.
I have the greatest job, actually, being the front of house manager, because I get to hear everybody's comments when they walk out of the theater and it's intermission and they're going for their wine, and the comments they're awesome. They just, everything from this is the greatest. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to laugh so hard tonight, and didn't expect such amazing talent. Like, our singers are fantastic.
So Cowtown Opera has a roster of singers, and this year I'm not quite sure how many there are of us. Sometimes it's between 12 to 24 people on the roster. And we come from all different backgrounds. Some of us have always lived in Calgary, some of us are from outside Calgary and have relocated here. Some people, have their degree in voice but have gone on to get a degree in something else and are pursuing a career in that field. But it creates such an amazing community of singers, and the opportunity to come together and socialize, to do gigs together, creates a great community. And that's something that a lot of us that are involved with Cowtown Opera really appreciate and would really miss if Cowtown Opera didn't exist.
My wife and I went to Club Med one day, and I wished I was dead. The bartender poured me a stiff one
and said, "Wouldn't you like to listen?"
I fell in love with him then and there. My dreadful old wife was unaware. I was beginning a love affair. For my Manuel I'd go anywhere.